Okay. Let me see. All right, I'm back again, talking about the latter half of Ironheart. Might as well finish off this show while we're at it. Okay. Give it a minute before we start. Hello there. Welcome. I think I'll get started now. So, Ironheart, episodes 1, 2, 3. Episode 3 left off with Riri snagging a piece of Parker's magical cloak, magical hood. Right? And she got caught by John. She left him to die. And she also accidentally left behind the biomesh, Joe's biomesh. So he's going to be in trouble. So we pick up now. Episode 4. We start with, let's skip the previously on. We just start with a quick flashback to John and Parker before Parker got his hood. We'll get more context as to what's going on here later, though. So skip all that nonsense. Here we are, modern day. The thieves are holding some kind of memorial for John. The entire time, Parker's a mean mugging Riri. I think last episode 3, he received some kind of vision or something that told him that Riri was responsible. It's a little subtle. Show's usually not subtle, but sort of lets the implication ride without telling you that he that the vision told him that Riri was responsible. Why did they kill Rampage? Because it actually becomes a important plot point for the latter half of the season. It basically becomes this tool they need to drive a wedge between Parker and the other thieves. But also in the first half, it sort of functioned as Riri's awakening as to how suspicious and untrustworthy Parker and John were. Although that should have been obvious to her that there was no reason for her to not know that they were not to be trusted. So they exchanged some ominous words. So now we got Riri analyzing the piece of hood she got. We have very strange sort of flip flop in terms of priorities through this whole sequence. We have Riri being like, okay, yeah, Parker's plotting something. I gotta figure out what he's doing. I gotta figure out his deal. While AI Natalie is like telling her to chill and that she's just being paranoid, which is very weird because it was AI Natalie that was incessantly warning Riri about how dangerous and suspicious Parker was up until now. So very strangely, she's completely flipped. So now she's like, dude, you need to calm. You need to chill. It's no big deal. Which is bizarre. I think that's because they want to do... They're trying to push some kind of arc with Riri for these few episodes. And it would not work if AI Natalie was justifiably, backing up her paranoia. Yes, we can't have a logical reason to just lazily throw away another intelligent member of the group. We have to kill him so the plot can happen. Yeah, and it happens off screen too. Like they had Eric Andre for like a couple scenes and that was it. So here we have the hood piece turns invisible. And Riri assumes, oh, that means Parker's here. He's here and he's using the cloak and it's reacting to that. Then it comes back and Natalie's like, no, we're good. See? It's totally fine. Which is an absurd assumption for AI Natalie to make. Like the piece of cloak disappears, then it reappears. And it's like, why would you assume that means you're safe? Like, Parker could still be there in the building, as far as you know. Like, as far as both these characters know, they're still in imminent danger. So they talk, and Riri, understandably. So Riri's understandably questioning, why are you acting so calm? Like let me read this quote. Like I didn't just let John die. Natalie says, you did what you had to do to survive. John would have done the same, okay? Which is a bizarre, like, I don't know why Natalie would make an appeal to John's morality, the criminal murderer. Like, why should it matter to Riri what John would have done? Like, presumably, they're on different moral levels. The way they're talking about it, it's like they're assuming that they're like, yeah, you're both criminals, you both share the same sort of morality, so... Very strange. AI Natalie says, like, stressing over an act of self-defense is going to get you killed. And it's like, was that really self-defense, though? Like, John was suffocating in the suffocation room, right? Where we had the suit, which let her breathe. And at that point in time, when she got the iron suit at that point, there really is nothing John could have done in that moment to hurt her. Right? So leaving him behind was not really self-defense. It was a deliberate choice to let him die when she did not need to. There was no danger to a person in that moment. That was a choice she made because she believed that in the future, John would pose a threat. So it feels like we've already hand-waved away the potential moral quandary of her decision to let John die. We've already waved that away as like, well, yeah, self-defense, whatever. Even though it was more complicated than that. It was definitely more complicated than just self-defense. And I thought at the end of episode 3 that it was being played as more complicated than that, but apparently no. Nope. Riri says she doesn't know what to do. Natalie suggests calling Shuri for advice and help. And Riri basically dismisses the idea because of how she assumed Shuri would react negatively to the circumstances of her situation. She basically, you see in a moment, she plays out a conversation with Shuri where Shuri, after learning what all the bad shit Riri's been up to, basically just hangs up on her. And so this conversation is basically used to wave away why she can't get any help from Shuri or Wakanda. And obviously her logic here is not airtight, to say the least. Right? Because she is it is. Look, I have not actually seen Wakanda Forever, so I can't exactly attest to the strength of Riri and Shuri's friendship. I would have assumed it was strong enough that, like, even if Riri fucked up big time, that Shuri would still help out. But I guess not. I guess no. I mean, at the beginning of Ironheart, she couldn't get a job. She's the super genius that can't get a job, and apparently, Wakanda was not a place she could rely on, even in that moment. If Riri was a genius, she would have knocked him out and went to the proper authorities while in the suit. But again, the plan has to happen. Yeah, and first of all, I think there's sort of the implication that if Riri were to turn in John, she'd basically be fucking over herself in a sense because John would rat her out. So to a certain extent, it makes sense that she would try to avoid that. However, as we will see, the dangers surrounding her, the stakes, will escalate to a certain point where Riri, it should be a viable option to Riri to basically be like, okay, I'm going to sacrifice myself going to jail in order to keep my life alive, me and my family safe. I'm going to sacrifice my future by going to prison in order to ensure that these crooks can't hurt my friends and family. But that's not even considered. That doesn't even come up as an option in her brain. So we learn she's been trying to contact Joe for help, but he's not answering his phone. So she goes to his house and find out he's been arrested. We learn that his biomesh was traced back to him, and the cops took him in. So yeah, Riri fucked him over, and we're gonna see how the consequences of her poor decisions play out for her specifically later. One thing I found curious was like, how exactly was that little piece of biomesh immediately traced back to Joe? They say in the previous episode, they said, like, Joe said, this stuff can be traced back to me because it's highly modified. But how exactly? Like, Joe doesn't have, at this point in time, until now, Joe doesn't have a criminal record or anything. Like, his activities on the black market are completely unknown to people. So, like, how was it traced back to him? They never explained. They just sort of they tell you it was, and you're meant to assume, okay, I guess. Riri is technically a strong ally to Wakanda for helping in defeating the Aztecs and end the tracking of vibranium. Well, if that's the case, then it really makes no sense for her not to be able to get a job from Wakanda, and also not being able to acquire help at all from Wakanda. That makes no sense. So we have this interesting moment when the news is talking about Obadiah as this great man, because his villain turn is unknown to the public. And, we focus on Joe. Seems to be having this large impact on him. We'll get more into that later. So I see the thieves. They're watching the news about Joe and how he's basically taking the fall for their heist. Yeah, we'll delve more into that. We see Joe is taking an ice bath because he's cool, I guess. He's a cool guy. Sees the news about Joe. Riri comes to visit Joe in prison. She tells him that she's going to get him out of there. Joe asks how, and Riri has no response at all. Ruby has no clue how she's going to get Joe out of the situation that is technically her fault. I think it's a testament to how good a guy Joe is. Well, actually, Joe does not rat out Riri. Like, potentially, he could, at the very least, he could reduce his sentence maybe by ratting out one of the people who was involved, one of the other people who was involved with that heist that he's in prison for. But he doesn't, and we could take it as part of his character to not rat out Riri, or we could take it as a plot hole, because as we'll soon see, he's annoyed with Riri, and he may or may not want revenge on her. But it's like, if he wanted revenge on Riri, why not rat her out? Like, he with the knowledge he has, he could get her in some serious trouble. And it's weird that he doesn't bother with doing that, even though he's supposed to be super angry and revengeful. Yeah, the show does not give us a reason why she doesn't turn herself in. I think it's avoiding that because it realizes, well, either the writers are too foolish to realize, or they do realize, but they're like, they don't want Riri to turn herself in. But they don't have a good reason why she wouldn't. So Riri says that she's going to try to get Joe out of there. But for the rest of the show, or the rest of the time that he's in prison, she does nothing to try to actually do that. She's basically lying here. She's basically like, I'm going to try to get you out. And then she doesn't. She doesn't do anything. And again, I think that speaks to her character, that she's a selfish biatch who won't even lift a finger to try to help Joe. And he says something interesting here. He says, I should have known never to trust you. You're just a selfish kid who can't take any responsibility for herself. You lie, you cheat, you manipulate. You'll do anything you can to save yourself, even if it means hurting other people in the process. And I ask, where's the lie? All of that is basically true. And the show fails to address that in any meaningful way. Like, there's a period of time where Riri feels really bad, but it's never acknowledged that, like, the reason she's in this place is the reason she's in these circumstances because she's like a bad person to her core. She's a bad person. That's never addressed, and there's never any push for her to meaningfully improve. Why you booing me? I'm right. Exactly. Joe's definitely in the right here. So let me see what happens next. Riri goes to see the thief. She learns that they're getting a new tech specialist. Parker questions Riri about Joe's tech being found at the crime scene. It's very obvious that he's suspicious of her. But he's not doing anything yet to confront her fully. Basically, Parker expresses that he's super sus of her. And so she's more paranoid. She sets up security cameras around her home. And again, Natalie keeps telling her that she's being paranoid when she's not. Parker is out to get her. That's true. And it's obviously true with how he's been acting. And it's just bizarre. AI Natalie was the one that warned her about him in the first place. Why is she now acting like there's nothing to be afraid of? Riri gives her mom a special watch to protect her. We'll see how exactly it protects her in a bit. I think the writers didn't think being a weapons investigator wasn't a viable job for someone who doesn't want to be a corrupt weapons manufacturer, but he's still the best character at this point. Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree with that. We'll get more into Joe's shifting motivations in a bit, though. It's an interesting dissection. She goes to see Xavier to give him a watch as well. She won't tell him what it's for, though. So far, she hasn't been honest with Xavier or Mom about what the watches are for. Here we have I think, a very telling exchange between these characters. She asks if she's a good person. And Xavier says, good, bad, them words don't really mean anything. Which I'll stop you right there. That's already a pretty big red flag. If someone asks if they're a good person, and your response involves us trying to dismantle good and bad as meaningless terms, you're already off to a very bad start. Because you're basically, by going this route, you're admitting, yeah, you're a bad person, but I don't want to say you're a bad person. I don't want to admit you're a bad person, so I'm going to play word games to try and weasel my way out of admitting you're a bad person. So he continues, it's all depending on who's labeling you. If you're asking me to describe you as a person, I'd say you're a smart person and a hardworking person, a protective person, and a complex person. And it's like, well, you started the conversation by dismantling good and bad as meaningless terms. So why can't you do the same with all of those terms, you know? If good and bad are empty and unimportant, why can't you say the same about being a smart person or a hardworking person? Why can't those be just as meaningless? Because that's what they are. They're just as meaningless as good and bad, really, in the context of this conversation. Having someone who's known your main character for years cannot say they're a good person or not is wild. Writers, are you telling us something? I think they are. But I don't think... It's bizarre. The show, I think, wants us to... It definitely wants us to like Riri. The show wants us to think... I think the show wants us to think she's a good person. But the fact that a character can't actually tell her that's the case, that she's a good person, is bizarre. I think the writers sort of understand that they've written her into a very weird place. Where, thus far, she's only really done bad things. I don't think she's even attempted to do a single good thing. And the show is trying to worm its way around that truth, that fact. Try to play word games. Trying to, And I think it's interesting to ask, to what extent are the words good and bad and meaningless? Because he says, well, those are meaningless terms. It just depends on who's looking at you, right? And it's like, well, what if Riri shot an innocent child in the head for no reason? Would Xavier still say good and bad are meaningless terms? Or at that point, would she definitively be a bad person? I think either answer is very telling about Riri as a person. and the morality of her and the morality of the show. So, blah, blah, blah. Ruby tries to get some sleep, but she can't. She's too anxious. She ends up sleeping in her suit, which has got to be very uncomfortable. She hears shouting. She runs into her mom's room, barges in, and finds her mom encased in a protective bubble. So apparently, she was watching TV, and the gunshot on the TV show, caused the watch to activate and encase her in a shield. And it's like this high tech, this technology that Riri invented, this high tech watch, can't tell the difference between a real gunshot and a gunshot coming from a TV. Like, that's pretty absurd. Like, what? If someone just yelled bang, would it also activate? Like, how trigger happy is this thing? Like, at this point, it seems like the watch is more dangerous than anything else. If it activates so easily. So, Riri and her mom have a little chat. Basically, the way this conversation goes, Riri is like, you know what, maybe I need to calm down. Maybe we need some of that, mystic stuff that was introduced in episode 1 that her friend was really into, like the crystals and the tea and the whatnot. So next day, mom takes her to her friend's shop. We meet this character whose name I don't recall. Who is this? Zelma. Zelma's her name. Okay. We meet Zelma, who's the daughter of Riri's mom's friend. So Riri's mom basically takes her here for spiritual guidance. If I shot a toy gun with a bang written on the flag, will it activate? Look at the AI was made not too long ago, but that doesn't mean it hasn't learned the difference between recorded audio and a gun. Yeah, exactly. Like, honestly, it's a liability if it goes off so easily. Okay. Let me prepare you, because what's about to happen next is it's the most absurd, jarring shift you could possibly imagine. Like, I was baffled when this happened watching it the first time. It is a wild and sudden shift in plot and tone, as you'll see in a second. So they're talking, and then Zelma, she does this. She teleports them to like another dimension. Let me let that sink in. She teleports them to another dimension. Yeah, she could do that. She could just teleport you to another dimension. Because they're actually like for real sorcerer people. Okay, it wasn't just, your typical mystic mumbo jumbo nonsense you see in real life. They're actually fucking wizards or some shit. Now, let me lay this down, because the sequence of events that brought us here is insane. Sorry to clear my throat. So, let me remind you how this sequence of events started. Riri was being very anxious, so she wanted like some tea or shit to calm down. And so her mother brought her to her mystic friend who does crystals and shit. And now they're in another fucking dimension. What? No sling ring. They just go there. Because who cares about any of this being remotely consistent? And so this sequence of events will turn out to be crucial to the plot, like super mega crucial, like Riri being anxious, asking her mom for some sort of calming remedy, taking her to a friend's shop, her friend turning out to be a fucking sorcerer, taking her to another dimension. This absurd sequence of events is absolutely crucial to how the rest of the plot plays out. Without this happening, I think Riri dies or some shit. Thus far in the show, we've only vaguely touched upon magic. And only with regard to Parker's hood, his magic hood. And the sort of magic entity that he made a deal with to get the hood. So, first 3 episodes, only this vague touching on magic. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, we're thrown into the fucking deep end. Thrown into the fucking deep end, cock first. Into this whole world of magic. Which was not, I don't think was properly set up at all. This shit comes out of nowhere, and it's jarring as fuck. I know there is magic in the MCU, but you kind of have to... In a show that has thus far been primarily technology-focused, sci-fi. Throwing this in halfway into the show is like... I got whiplash. So, Riri happens to have the piece of hood in her pocket, which is convenient. So they analyze the piece of hood. Zelma takes a look at it. She says it was created in another dimension, that it's unstable, and it's very old. Now later, the show will act like Riri intentionally brought the piece of hood to have them look at it, which doesn't make any sense because she had no reason to believe they knew anything about actual magic. At all. So her intentionally bringing the hood for them to analyze makes no sense. Now we got some cringe exposition. We learned that Zelma's mom is like a sorcerer dropout. And that because of that, Zelma didn't learn from an actual master. She learned from books and shit. Oh no, where's the line? I could have learned from actual masters instead of these old books and baby witches off of TikTok, which is very cringe. It really does feel like there's a few seats missing for this to make any sense. Yeah, you're exactly right. Honestly, you could say that about a bunch of different elements of the show. There are several things that happen in terms of character turns or changes in switch ups in dialogue and plot points where it feels like there's shit missing. That there should have been like a scene or something to properly transition. Okay, I think I'm back. Let me. Okay. Sorry about that. My power went out and came back, so my internet had to boot up again. Let me see. This feels like it was thrown in just cause. Yeah, I definitely felt that way to me too. Diving into it. I get Mordo stopped hunting for sorcerers or didn't realize there's at least 2 in Chicago yet. I'm trying to recall what happened to Mordo. I don't think we know. At the end of Doctor Strange, he starts hunting sorcerers, taking away their magic or whatever. And I think that's all we know. I think there's a throwaway line in Multiverse of Madness that Mordo tried to kill Doctor Strange at some point. As far as we know, I think Mordo's still out there, still hunting sorcerers, so. Yeah, I guess he just missed these goofballs, these cringe lords. If I recall correctly, there was supposed to be a Sorcerer's University series that was canned, and they wanted to keep this in because Zelma becomes important later on. I had never heard of that. I did not know. Yeah, I think this randomness makes more sense in the context of them wanting to use Zelma again for like a magic-based show. Maybe that's what we'll get to it, but maybe that's what the post-credit scene is supposed to be setting up. Okay, let's see. Where was I? During this whole sequence, we have Riri's mom learning that magic is. Well, I guess she knew magic was real, but the point is she's taking this surprisingly well. Like she's not freaking out or anything. She's surprisingly like, oh, okay, I guess you're all magic or whatever. You're sorcerers or something. Which is like, okay. Blah blah blah. So basically, they're told that the cloak is dark and dangerous, and that the hood comes from one of the darkest dimensions. They say the hood influences whoever wears it. They don't say which dark entity the hood comes from, though. They also tell her to destroy the hood, but they don't say how. This is strange. They're extremely adamant that Riri destroys the piece of hood she has. But they don't tell her how or anything. They don't help her with it or anything. And then she'll find out that like it can't be destroyed by any conventional means. And you'd think they'd know that. You'd think they'd know that and therefore want to help her out. But whatever. They just kick her out. It's not their problem, I guess. So Riri and her mom get into a bit of a row because her mom is like, oh, so you didn't, it wasn't just that you needed to like relax, you were stressed out or anything. It was, you had this dark piece of magic or whatever you were dealing with. And so she's mad that Riri didn't say anything about that. She says, why didn't you just ask for help? Riri says, I did. Then her mom says, let me see if we get the line soon. I don't know where exactly the line is, but she says, her mom says, no, you manipulated me, acting like you needed some sage and crystals, and you smuggled something dangerous in my friend's shop behind my back. So, again, it's almost like at this point we're reinforcing the idea that reinforcing the negative traits Joe outlined earlier in the episode. She says, you manipulated me. Joe said that she was a manipulative person. And so it's going to be bizarre because they keep highlighting these negative traits, but they never really address them properly they don't address them in a character arc that involves character growth. They don't do that. They don't just outright basically say, yeah, Riri's a bad person. They still treat her like she's a hero when she's not. And we'll get to it. We'll get to it. I'll tell you what. And in response to the argument, Riri does more manipulation. Riri says, this is why I don't tell you shit, because you push me to deal with things the way that you want me to. And then if I don't, you make me talk about my dead stepdad. I'm not you. You can't actually take that. And you actually can't take that, yeah. So this is more manipulation. And this is the first time this specific conflict has been introduced, at all. Which makes me wonder if it's real, or if it's just some bullshit that Riri came up with in the spot to get her mom off her back. Before this, there was no indication that Riri had an issue with how her mom wanted her to deal with things. In fact, until recently, Riri completely ignored her. If you remember in episode 1, Riri's mom had to bribe a janitor just to know what the hell Riri was doing, because Riri refused to communicate with her at all. So it's like Riri's just trying to guilt trip her into making it seem like it's her fault that Riri won't admit what's happening. Which is really shitty. It's a really shitty thing to do. Also, another thought. Riri just gets in the suit and she just flies off through the city. And it's like, is that allowed? Is Riri just allowed to fly and do whatever she wants in this suit she made? Like, you typically need a license for a vehicle. But I guess she does. She doesn't need anything. She can just do what she wants. We get to prison, and Parker breaks in to talk to Joe. He offers, he wants to make a deal, basically. He wants to recruit Joe in exchange for helping him get his life back. In response to that, Joe says, like, his life is over. He doesn't want to be a fugitive. Then Parker says, your old life was really shitty, actually. But you can create a new life, a better life, if Joe works for him. Joe has no reason to take this offer. At all. Like, up until now, he has been steadfastly against becoming a criminal, getting involved in criminal activity, or anything that brings him closer to being the supervillain that his dad was. Like, he's vehemently against it. Like, the whole last episode, Riri really needed to break him down and to convince him to let her take his biomesh to do shit. That's how against anything illegal, like doing anything illegal with outside of him owning this illegal tech, doing illegal shit with that tech. That's how against it he was. Joe should not be tempted by Parker's offer at all. At all. I believe Parker admits, like, yeah, he was the one behind the heist he did with Riri. So it's like Joe becomes perfectly aware that this dude is a big time criminal. And that basically he has every reason, given what's been established about his character, to not take Parker's offer. To steer clear of him and to steer clear of him at all cost. Riri goes to Joe's bunker. Now, if you remember, in episode 2, she had to be taken to the bunker by Joe because it had a retinal scanner. So she needed Joe to get inside the bunker. Now, though, there's just a key under the mat. Which is really fucking convenient. A very convenient way to get around not having Joe with her. And another sign of lazy writing. So once inside, she basically tries a whole bunch of methods to try and figure out how to destroy this piece of the hood. She does all kinds of experiments and shit to destroy this thing. But nothing works. Eventually, she flies back to the city. And as she's flying, AI Nedley points out that her heart rate is going haywire and that Ruby's having trouble breathing. Which makes me think back to episode 1. If you remember that episode, when she was flying home from MIT, the school AI pointed out some sort of heart complication issue, which Ruby brushed off. So I think that moment was trying to set up this. It was trying to set up. It actually was trying to set up her panic attacks. But I don't think it makes sense, because if you go back to that scene in episode 1, there was zero indication of Riri having a panic attack or anything like that at all. Like, she is totally calm in that scene. Like, when the school AI points out her heart, whatever, Riri just reacts very calmly, saying there's no issue. And as far as we can tell, there is no issue, and there doesn't seem to be a cause for her to have a panic attack in that moment either. So, it's also extremely convenient that he didn't confess to where his bunker is to the police, and they're not here taking as much evidence as possible. Yeah, you're right. You're right about that too. At the very least, he's been shown to be kind of weak-willed. At least he has been in the past. So you'd think he'd be interrogated and eventually give up where his bunker is. And it's also kind of silly that Riri assumed. She basically assumed that the bunker wasn't compromised. Because if she had flown there and it was compromised, she might have been fucked. So, come back to the prison with Joe, where the thieves set up. They basically break him out of prison. And he goes along with this, which doesn't make any sense. Why would Joe, of all people, ever go along with this? It's dumb, it's stupid, it doesn't make sense. So, blah, blah, blah. AI Natalie flies the suit to Xavier. Now, you'll notice in this scene, AI Natalie purposefully does not speak, does not reveal her voice, does not reveal her hologram form to Xavier. Okay, she silently grabs him and takes him to Riri as someone to help her. Okay, keep that in mind. She purposefully does not reveal herself. Okay, Xavier and Riri talk for a bit, and it's then that AI Natalie reveals herself to Xavier. Sorry about that. That was my phone. And he reacts very poorly to it. Thinks it's in bad taste to make an AI in the image of his dead sister. So, this is so stupid and contrived. Okay. Natalie, it seemed as if when Natalie first went to grab Xavier, it seemed she was respecting Riri's wish not to reveal herself to Xavier. Okay? She goes there, she does not reveal her holographic form, she does not reveal her voice. So it seems like she's respecting Riri's wish. But then, as soon as she gets Xavier to Riri, she reveals herself. She reveals herself just at this most dramatic moment possible, right? Because if Natalie revealed herself as she was going to grab Xavier, it's not as dramatic, right? It's not as dramatic if Riri is not there to face the backlash of Xavier's anger. It's not as dramatic. So she conveniently does not reveal herself then. She takes Xavier to Riri and then reveals herself just so Xavier can have this big blowout at Riri. So we can have the utmost drama in the moment. Which I am annoyed by. I'm not happy about that. That's bullshit. That is contrived, lazy writing, just to get this dramatic moment. And as far as I can tell, there's no reasoning behind this decision by Natalie. Natalie has no reason to wait until this scene to do it when she could have done it the last scene. It's stupid, it's dumb, I don't like it. So, Xavier is very unhappy about recreating his dead sister as her personal AI, as you can imagine. Riri tries to explain, like, what does she say? That, she didn't create Natalie on purpose. It was sort of an accident. But then she got used to AI Natalie. And she says, well, it's like Xavier's mixtape, which has a recording of Natalie's voice in it. Xavier's not very happy about that. He says, that's not the same thing. I'm honoring her. You're freezing her in time, faking like she's alive. And then Riri says, look at her. She is alive. Now, one of the problems I had with episodes 1, 2, and 3 was how they treated AI Natalie. AI Natalie cannot be the real Natalie. Like, it doesn't make any sense. But thus far, and the show will continue to do this throughout the rest of the season, it will dance around the idea about whether AI Natalie is somehow actually the real Natalie. Right? As mentioned, she has gaps in her memory. Where are those gaps? As an AI created from Riri's memories, are those gaps the things that Natalie should know that Riri wouldn't? It's not explored. It's not delved into. It dances around that idea. We conveniently do not explore that anymore. Then we have characters. Then there's the idea that, like, if this AI Natalie is created from Riri's memories, she should be a warped version of Natalie. She should be the version of Natalie that not only that Riri experienced, that Riri saw, how Riri saw Natalie, through the filter of the fuzzy memories, because Natalie died 5 years ago. So she should also be Natalie through that warped mirror, the warped window of vague memories. That is not how the show portrays it. When Riri's mama meets Natalie, she does not view AI Natalie as any different at all to the real Natalie. She seems to be exactly her in terms of personality. I think the mom even says, like, it's like you recreated her soul. It's like this is her soul. So then we come to this scene where, though Riri has been denying it up until now, she is now saying that actually she is the real Natalie. She is Natalie brought back from the dead, which has all kinds of moral implications that are moral quandaries that the show does not delve into at all in any way. And so it's like, is Riri delusional? Is that what we're supposed to take from this? That Riri is fucking delusional. She has deluded herself into believing that this AI is actually her friend. Or is actually her dead friend. Is that what we're doing here? And we'll get to it more later, but the show is not clear about this at all. Xavier says, that is not my sister. She's not sort of alive. Which is treated by the show as a very harsh, cruel statement because it hurts Natalie's feelings. but it's true. AI Natalie is not his sister. But the show treats it as him being very mean. It's true, but the show treats it like he's being way too mean. Then in response, she reacts defensively. So she says, "Oh, okay, so what would you do, huh? If you were me, what would you do, bitch?" And Xavier says, "Delete her. Because she's an AI. Delete." This touches on another strange, complicated ethical question that the show very much sidesteps. Doesn't even address. It is thus far not even addressed the idea that setting aside whether AI Natalie is the real Natalie, setting aside the ethical questions of recreating your dead friend via an AI, setting all that aside, there is still the ethical question of this AI's existence. Because as the show has not even addressed this, but AI Natalie is the most complicated, sophisticated AI we have thus far seen in the MCU. Like she is so sophisticated and complex as to be indistinguishable from a sentient human. Right? She has a complicated personality. She has the ability to ignore requests made by Riri. She has the ability to just go off and do whatever she wants. She desires things like, she desires to have fun. She desires to be seen as a friend and a partner. She desires to be seen as a person. But this is never addressed. The question of the ethics of creating a person, of creating a sentient being via AI, is never addressed. Now, Xavier here is saying, just delete her, get rid of her. Xavier does not seem to understand, and I don't think he ever really understands, that this AI is sentient. And it's like, if he understood that she was sentient, it's like, what is the morality of deleting her? Is that akin to murder? Would deleting this AI be the same as murder? That is a good question. If she is a sentient being, is that the case? Would it be murder? Never addressed, never even approached, never brought up. The show doesn't even seem to understand that it has created this moral quandary. Whatever option you have, Riri is in the wrong. If that is Natalie, she's hiding her family from her. She's fighting her. Yeah. If this isn't the case, then Riri is unhealthily dealing with her grief via delusion. You're exactly right. If this is supposed to be the real Natalie, then Riri doesn't really have a right to control her. To keep her from her brother, things like that. If she isn't the real Natalie, then this is an unhealthy coping mechanism for dealing with her friend's death. Bitch. So Natalie gets upset and flies away when it seems like Riri is considering doing that. Then Xavier drops the watch and leaves because he's unhappy. Riri grabs the watch. This is important because her having the watch will be crucial to a future scene. Here, we cut to this. This is bullshit. Joe just fully joins the thieves. He joins the thieves, then uses his knowledge and technology to create this highly advanced machine to give himself a bunch of upgrades to go on a mission assigned by the thieves. What? I'm sorry? Huh? This character Joe would never fucking do this. This is bullshit. The one thing he does not want to do is to become a criminal, is to become a fugitive, is to become a supervillain like his dad. That is like the one thing he wants to do. He would never agree to work with these people. Not in a million years. More so than that, he would never agree to make shit for them. Like, he was so... When Riri proposed... modifying his biomesh to make it like a thing that can cloak things, like weapons and shit. He was already like, whoa, okay, I don't want my shit used for illegal activities like that. Remember, his motivation, the thing he wants to do more than anything, he wants to use his technology to help people. Things like implants, basically all for health reasons. That was his whole deal. So the fact that he's working with these guys and not only doing that, but using his technology to make weapons, to make weapon grade, to make modifications for the purpose of using them as weapons is fucking stupid. Why would he trust these people? Like, he's going under this operation that requires him to be at their mercy. Like, he's in a very, very vulnerable state here. Why would he trust these fucking people? Not only are they fucking strangers, he doesn't know any of these people. They're criminals. They're admitted criminals who beat the shit out of innocent people, who steal, who threaten people. Why would he trust them? What? And you'll see in a second, but like... As you can see, Slug immediately alters the code to give Parker admin control of all the shit they're implanting in Joe. Which proves that, like, yeah, you should not have trusted these people, because now you're under their thumb. You fucking tard. Fuck. What happened to him standing up for himself? Did that all go out the window? Bullshit. And then very quickly, at the end, Parker says, "Oh yeah, Riri killed John, so now we're gonna kill her." And that's the end of this stupid episode for stupid people made by stupid writers. It's bullshit. All right. Let's jump into episode 5. All right, episode 5. We have, what happens in this episode? We start with AI Natalie in the suit, having run off, watching a video of Riri and the real Natalie. And you can see that she focuses very much on Natalie. So there's this moment where she compares their faces, how they look. And this is... They really wanted to milk Obadiah Stane as much as possible. Yeah. It appears to be the case, yes. I think largely they wanted some kind of connection to Iron Man to justify, as further justification for her being called Ironheart and for her being an Iron Man themed hero. They desperately wanted that connection. So we have this happening where Natalie is very focusing on this video of real Natalie. And it makes me wonder, why has AI Natalie not questioned her existence up until now? From the jump, she understood and accepted the fact that she was an AI that Riri created. But it never seemed to occur to her what that might mean in terms of her identity as Natalie, because she also believes she is the real Natalie. She believes she's the real Natalie while simultaneously believing she's an AI. It feels like that should have immediately created some conflict in terms of her identity as a person. But it seems like she hasn't considered that at all until now, and it's barely a thing. Like there's this scene where she seems to be questioning it, and that's it. It's never brought up again. There's never any more of her questioning her identity. Again, another complex idea that the show sidesteps. And as she's sitting here, she's jumped by fucking Slug, who captures her super fucking easily. How did Slug know where the suit was? How did he know? I don't know. Fucking sorry about that. I don't know how he knew where the suit was. And I don't... okay. How did he manage to get the jump on her? Right? Like, you have this advanced suit piloted by this advanced AI, yet she didn't realize someone was attacking her or coming near her until the last second. Like, what? I think that the show wants to use the excuse that she was distracted. But no. She's an advanced AI. I'm not just going to buy that she was distracted. So it reeks of lazy ass writing. Lazy ass bullshit writing. Whoops. And so we cut to Riri talking to Zelma at White Castle. Like, they really focus on it being White Castle. Like, it's this whole thing. I guess they got an ad deal with White Castle. Reminds me of Loki season 2, with how much they focused on that McDonald's. And it was such like an unsubtle ad. Like, they literally have a scene of Mobius praising McDonald's menu, the McDonald's menu. It's not even subtle, and it's all about. Here, it's all about White Castle. So he talks to her. The girl says that, the dark entity that is that created the cloak was actually Dormammu from Doctor Strange. Apparently, they even built this White Castle because there wasn't one in Chicago. Oh yeah, then it's definitely advertising. If there's like not, if they couldn't even find a White Castle in Chicago, they had to build one special, then yeah, definitely an ad. So Zelma says it's Dormammu that created the dark evil hood. And they're talking about why that is. Zelma guesses that Dormammu wants to come to Earth, possibly to eat it, so she made a deal with Parker for something or other. But Riri does not take it seriously. Like at all. She doesn't seem to believe Zelma when she says this. She thinks it's all super goofy and silly and doesn't make and isn't real. Which is like, what? Riri has no reason at all to be skeptical of what Zelma is saying here. Like, last episode, she went through this whole sequence of trying to destroy the piece of the hood she had, and she saw it was like magically indestructible. And she's seen Parker's powers. She knows that magic and sorcerers are real. She has zero reason to be skeptical of anything Zelma is saying here. I don't know why she is. It don't make no sense. So Zelma starts recounting the events of Doctor Strange 1 with Caecilius and Dormammu in the Dark Dimension. Does it in a very cringy, jokey, millennial way, though, which is annoying. Riri says, whether or not Zelma is correct, why would she be telling Riri this instead of making contact with the Sanctum and the two Sorcerer Supremes to deal with this? You know what? I hadn't even thought of that. But that's exactly right. If Zelma believes that this is the work of fucking Dormammu, she should immediately be contacting a sorcerer to deal with it. She should immediately be we need to go to Doctor Strange right now and get his fucking help, because this is some bad shit that we need his help for. But they don't. It's not even an option they bring up. Riri says, why would Dormammu give Parker powers? Parker's not some evil wizard. He's just a guy who wants enough commas and zeros in his bank account to feel worthy of respect. And it's like, you don't know that. Why are you making that assumption? You don't know that at all. You don't know. Even right now, Riri does not know anything about Parker at all. There is no reason for her to assume this or to even for her to even feel confident. She understands he just wants money. That doesn't make any sense. So Zelma then explains that Dormammu needs a puppet. He needs a puppet he can manipulate to get what he wants. She mentions needing to, I think, it seems like even if Strange and Wong aren't available, they're not the only sorcerers. Yeah, exactly. There are other sorcerers that could be contacted for help. Let me see. So the muscly girl thieves then show up. They tell everyone in the White Castle to get out. One of them even smashes this dude's face into a table. And it's like, no. Everyone runs out scared. It's like, that wouldn't happen. Like, if two chicks entered a White Castle and pounded one dude's face into a table and told them all to get out, there would be a brawl on their hands. Like, these chicks would get their asses kicked. No. They're not as intimidating as the show seems to think they are. Now, if they had a fucking gun, that would be a different matter. If they had a fucking gun, then yeah, everyone would go running, no problem. But they don't, because if they had a gun, then Riri would lose immediately. She would lose big time in the fight that is to follow. Riri is being incredibly stupid here. Even if she is correct, Parker has something she has no idea how to address, and she knows magic exists. Why is she not listening? Exactly. She is making all kinds of assumptions, even though she knows she doesn't know jack shit about what's happening. She knows magic's real. She knows that this Dormammu guy is probably really fucking powerful and is bad news and is way above her pay grade in terms of what she should be able to deal with. So, I don't know. It's dumb. I don't know why Riri is acting like a fucking stupid idiot right now. Whatever. Also, as soon as this happens, these people get sent running out. Someone's gonna call the cops, so the cops should be there in a matter of minutes. The cops never show up, which is ludicrous. And it's a thing the show needs to happen because it needs the thieves to be able to get away after the ensuing fight. It needs them all to get away, and it also needs their brawl to not get interrupted by the police. So just conveniently, no police ever show up. Which makes no sense. So everyone leaves. Except Riri. Riri's the only one who remains. And then a big brawl ensues. And Riri somehow, even though these chicks, according to the show, are apparently like strong and skilled enough to beat up grown-ass men, we saw in previous episodes them fighting security guards. Somehow, Riri, who has no fighting experience and who's smaller and weaker than them, somehow puts up this decent fight, and which does not make any sense. It's plot armor. Also, the fight is just, I find very goofy. Like, the logistics of it are silly, in my opinion. She drops the watch, which ends up at the foot of the chicks. Forgot about this fucking line. This is so stupid. She says that headline tomorrow, it's going to be Girl Genius Dies. And then she says, my death won't make the news. She says, well, damn, that's dark. And that's not dark, that's retarded. Riri is retarded here. What are you talking about? Riri is fucking famous, especially in Chicago. In the first episode, they made a whole point of saying she ended up in the newspaper all the fucking time because of how impressive and genius she was. Okay, she went to college at age 15. It was all in the paper. She was so famous. The dude at the shop, she was like, oh, Riri. Riri Williams, the famous Riri Williams. And now they're saying like, oh, Riri died. It wouldn't even make the news. The fuck are you talking about? Is this supposed to be some kind of political message? Because it does not work with what the show has already established about this character. Knock it off. And then they have a very fucking cringy response. It pisses me off. The show thinks it's being so fucking deep and meaningful when it is not. Okay? You've just contradicted some major shit you've established about this world and this character. You don't get points for ham-fisting in the message that doesn't even make sense. Let me take a sip of my drink. Okay, so that stupidity happens. Riri basically asks just them to kill her quickly, just shoot her in the head. And we see that when she shoots, the gunshot sound activates the bubble shield, which then stops the bullet. Now, bullets travel pretty fast, pretty fast. So the fact that the shield comes up just in time to catch the bullet, I'm not buying it. That's ludicrous. That's stupid. Basically, this Riri was counting on this to trap the girls basically in this prison that they can't get out of. Now, that raises questions about how this thing was fucking designed. The watch was designed to erect this shield to protect whoever's wearing it. But why is it also designed to basically imprison the person it's meant to protect inside of it? That seems like a pretty major design flaw. Right? Like it's designed in such a way that it traps the person it's meant to protect. That seems like a pretty big design flaw. Now, all of this wackiness in terms of how this watch is designed is just so we can conveniently have this moment. The writers wanted to have this sort of this moment. They wanted to be like, oh, look how clever Riri is, using the watch she designed to protect her family and friends in this clever way. But it doesn't make any sense, okay? Riri is an idiot for designing this watch in this way. And they can't deactivate this. Like, they don't even try, like, breaking the watch or anything. They just stand there like fucking dodo heads. Fucking stupid dodo heads. Then Clown shows up. And it's like, why are the thieves arriving one at a time? Or in groups? Like, why was Clown not here? What the fuck was she doing? She's not with Slug doing his mission. Was she just chilling outside waiting for the two chicks to get defeated so that she could then take her turn to fight Riri? What? What are they doing? And so, cut to Slug, who is the AI Natalie with the suit trapped in the back of the truck. She is now pulling herself out of the trap. She pulls up a buzz saw to cut herself out, and it's like, did what? It seems like Slug didn't take any measures against the suit's many capabilities to escape at all. Like what? Why not have a fucking EMP? Why not EMP the suit to deactivate it? Like why? He thinks that he's just gonna like stick the suit in the back of his truck and then that's it. It's not gonna be able to escape. Like he's got to assume it has like lasers and guns and saws and shit, and like he took no measures to prevent it from escaping. Is he fucking stupid? That's a rhetorical question because he is fucking stupid. Every character in the show is fucking stupid. Yeah. Okay. What's next? What happens next? What stupidity? What stupidity follows? Riri hides from Clown. She tells Clown that John killed Rampage. Clown's in denial about it, but as you can see, it gets her thinking. There's more fighting. Riri escapes the building. And yeah, this made me think, like, oh, did the show? Because if you remember in episode 1, Rampage was treated very poorly. He was made fun of. They thought he was a joke. No one on the team seemed to like him, like at all. They were not at all displeased about him getting kicked off the team and replaced with Riri. Then, as the show went on, they started to have these little moments where characters were like, "Oh, I actually like Rampage. Yeah, Rampage, he was a good guy." And it's like, that's not how you react, how you were acting before. And it's like, did the show decide to retcon in characters liking Rampage, so that it made more sense they were unhappy that he was killed, so that this plot point could make some more sense, or they could learn that John killed Rampage, and now, having retconned in that they liked Rampage, they can be upset with Parker and be mad at him and turn against him. Is that what they did? That's like, why not just rewrite it from the beginning that Rampage isn't a laughingstock, goofy ass motherfucker? Well, I don't know. Because I guess they also needed a reason. They also needed a good reason to kick Rampage off the team to replace him with Riri. So I guess they were in kind of a pickle there, and they were not able to write themselves out of it. So conveniently, Slug shows up at exactly this time, and uber conveniently, it's at this exact moment that AI Natalie breaks out with the suit. As we'll see in a sec. Boom, rescue, boom. Very fucking convenient. The timing is stupidly convenient. Yeah, so I when this happened, first time, I immediately came up with a list of questions. And here they are. Why did Slug take the suit to Riri? Like, why was he taking the suit to Riri? Why not? What? Where was he going with that? If he wanted to go to help them out to take down Riri at the White Castle, don't take the fucking suit to her. Because he did that, he personally facilitated Riri's escape. There was a good chance she wouldn't be able to get away in time from the thieves if he hadn't brought her suit to her. Okay? Why did Natalie conveniently escape at this exact time? I don't know. So after she gets the suit back, she then basically turns around and punches the fucking truck flying at her, causing it to fly through the air. And it's like, what, Riri, were you trying to kill him? Is that what you were doing? Because that wouldn't have been self-defense, since you could have just flown away. You can't use that excuse. And again, there's that word again, conveniently, Slug is totally fine. Like, he's not even injured. You're just like, after that fucking monstrous wreck, it's totally fine. Yeah. Not even injured. Basically, like, dazed at most. It's like, no. Then Riri hurls on the ground, and Natalie projects herself so they can have a little chat. And it's like, why are you doing this? Why are you not leaving? The thieves are like just up the street by the White Castle. You're not out of trouble yet, right? The people trying to kill you are like just nearby. Like, you should just leave. And it's like that scene in episode 2, where she got confronted by this security guard because she didn't just fucking leave. So goofy. So they have another argument, Riri, and look, she even gets out of the fucking suit. She's just asking for trouble. Whatever. Riri and Natalie have another argument. Riri's upset that Natalie left her unprotected, and Natalie's upset that Riri considered deleting her. They argue again about Natalie's status as whether she's alive. Natalie says, I'm not the problem here, Ree. You are. Which, like, where's the lie? Where's the lie? So Natalie goes away. She basically goes into, like, sleep mode or some shit because she's mad. Riri flies away, but then she is hit by something. You know what I just noticed? Riri is really fucking high up at this moment when she's hit. And she's hit by someone who's on the ground, so I question the range of these powers. So she's crashing now, and she's like, Natalie, help me, please. Natalie, I guess, just is going to leave her to die. Like, AI Natalie is mad at her, and so she's just going to let Riri die. Which is like, wow, that's cool. Thanks. She crashes down. Suit's malfunctioning. She hits the White Castle sign, and the letters rearrange to say ouch. Which was I thought that was a little clever. I was like, oh, that's funny. It's like the one thing I'll give this show at this point. That's like the one thing. And more White Castle advertisement. And then we find out who shot at Natalie. It was Joe. Also questioned the range of the AI tracking a surge of energy aiming towards her. Oh, yeah. You're right about that, too. Again, it's like when Natalie was captured by Slug. It's like suddenly there's like no awareness of what's happening around her. It's very silly. So Joe's here. Joe's been upgraded. So now he has like lightning powers and a bunch of other like strength enhancements and shit. He jumps, he leaps. Joe says, I was bailed out by a mutual friend, Parker Robbins. Compelling guy, got me my stuff back. And again, if you think back to that earlier scene when Parker tried to recruit him, Parker didn't say anything compelling, especially to someone like Joe. Here's what happened. Joe's mad at Riri for using his technology for criminal activity and getting him arrested. So he decides to dedicate his tech for criminal activity to a criminal he just met? What? As you'll see in the scene, Joe is basically a different person now. Like, his personality is totally different. At this point, his motivations, his character, all of it has just completely flipped to be totally different now. He's just a different guy now. The show wanted to make Joe a villain, but instead of having a believable arc of him, transitioning from good guy who wants to help people to a villain who wants revenge, instead we skip all of that and he just becomes a different person. It's bullshit, and I don't like it. Okay? Bullshit, and I don't like it. You can make the argument of a distraction of the AI, questioning its existence badly, but still. Yet Natalie is in survival mode and was somehow blindsided by a distant attack. Yeah. You can give, I suppose you can give it some leeway, given that she's an AI questioning her existence. However, she's still an AI, meaning that as an AI, she has more sophistication, more awareness. She's able to think faster than a normal human can. So having her being blindsided by things that would trip up a normal person don't make sense, given that she's an advanced AI. So, yeah. Blah, blah, blah. Ruby asks, what does Parker want in return? Joe says, You know, I never understood my father's fascination with power until now. I never understood what my father's fascination was with power until now. Again, I doesn't make any sense. This is not Joe's character. We have not justified getting to this point. It's stupid. And at this point, I think we can safely say that this is the show's justification for absolving Riri of her culpability of ruining Joe's life. They just have him turn into a villain, and so now Riri doesn't have to feel bad about ruining this innocent dude's life, which is bullshit. So Joe basically smokes the shit out of Riri, fries her suit and shit. As you can see, they're going out of their way to portray him as like this unhinged villain, which again, that is not his character. They just changed him on a dime. So, true, I get that Joe would be mad at Riri for being imprisoned, but to the point of wanting to kill her with artificial augmentations in his body to stretch. Yeah, the show makes this huge leap to make him into a supervillain. Joe says, I spent my whole life trying not to become Obadiah Stane, just to find myself right where he left off, taking down an iron freak. It's the show's very lazy, half-assed attempt to parallel Joe with Obadiah to try and hit some sort of similar beat with the first Iron Man movie. It doesn't work. It's just so lazy and half-assed. So Joe beats the shit out of Riri and tells her to... He spares her life. He says, just leave Chicago immediately. Don't come back. Which, Joe, I don't buy that Joe would ever kill someone. So I guess that makes sense. But it's too little too late in terms of justifying his character. Taking this turn, it doesn't. He's a different person at this point. Joe wants her to leave because he doesn't want Parker to know that he spared her. Because Parker's not going to be happy about that. However, he just leaves her here in front of the White Castle, where 3 of the other thieves are currently at. He doesn't even make sure He doesn't even make sure they don't see Riri still alive. And because of that, she escapes, and Clown immediately sees her. Like, what? Like, why did Joe not take her to a different location, at least? He did this right in front of the other thieves, when he wants it to be a secret. Huh? Riri goes home to talk to her mom. She apologizes. And Clown doesn't throw a bomb at Riri's feet. Why? Well, I guess at this point, you'll see in a future scene, Clown's thinking about Riri telling her that John killed Rampage. But Joe could not have predicted that, so it's just convenient. It's convenient that Clown second-guessed killing Riri in that moment. So she goes to her mom. She apologizes for keeping her in the dark. Then Riri says, Mom, I said there are crazies in these streets looking for me. We shouldn't even be sitting right down right now. We should be packing our bags, which is correct. That is totally correct. There are people out to kill Riri, and probably the people she cares about. They should be leaving immediately. They should not be staying here. So what follows is the strangest fucking dialogue exchange I've ever seen. It's ludicrous. So she says that. She says, blah, blah, blah. Shouldn't even be sitting here right now. We should be packing our bags. Her mom says, Riri, you can't keep running. And then Riri's like, Chicago's not safe for us. And it's like, yeah, it's not safe. You need to run. Or you need to either run or go to the authorities. And just, Riri needs to bite the bullet and sacrificing her future going to prison. Like, one of the two. Either get the rag on her or go to the police. Well, there are some people she knows that can go to a wholly different dimension, but I guess that's not an option. Oh, you're totally right. Oh my god, you're totally right. They should go to fucking Zelma and just have them hide her and her mom and Xavier too in a different dimension. until you figure out how to take down Parker. Yeah, exactly. Fuck. I didn't even think of that. That's another way this totally breaks down. Riri proves that the cloak is indestructible when she conducts all those tests on it. So my question is, how was the laser able to cut the hood if that's the case? Yeah, it shouldn't have been able to do that. You're totally right. I think there's a throwaway line where she's like, oh, you can break it apart into pieces, but you can't destroy it, which is like a lame excuse. Zelma and Kree Summer doing what they did. It creates a gigantic plot hole. Yeah, it does. It exactly does. Introducing magic in that way breaks this show completely. I mean, it was broken to begin with, but it breaks it again. It shatters the foundations a second time. So Ruby says Chicago's not safe. And then her mom says, I'm not talking about Chicago, Riri. I'm talking about you. You can't keep running from yourself because everywhere you go, whether it's here or Cambridge, this comes with you. Riri says, I'm not following it. And when I was watching it the first time, following this, I was like, yeah, I agree. I'm not following. What the fuck are you talking about? What are you talking about? Riri is talking about people, murderers, coming after them to chop them into tiny little pieces. That's what Riri's talking about. What is she talking about? Your obsession with this suit is the reason you got kicked out of MIT. If it got you involved with a crime boss and a lunatic who turned himself into a robot, and it's the reason you ain't got a man. So it's like, okay, that doesn't address the fact. You can say that Riri's obsession with the suit got her into this trouble in the first place. That doesn't address the concern of murderers coming after them to chop them into a million tiny little pieces, to stick them in a box, a glass box, and to put that box on display. That doesn't address any of that at all. So what are you talking about, Mama? And also the way she says this, it sounds like she's saying, oh, you got involved with the Joe, who turned out to be a lunatic, turned himself into a robot. But it's like, no, technically, that Riri ruined his life. She encroached on his life, ruined it, and turned him into a villain. But, whatever. Let's not make it so that Riri has to take responsibility for anything. So yeah, this is a total non sequitur. We've seen this before, but conversationally, this is a complete non sequitur. I don't know what the fuck spurred her on to talk about this. She then asks again. We get the question one more freaking time. Why did Riri make an Iron Man suit? Mom interrogates her. She's like, give me an answer. And then Riri says, we'll get in a second. Riri says, because it was the only thing I could do to protect us. After Gary and Natalie died, that night I just froze. I couldn't help them. I just had to watch them bleed out. So the paramedics came 1 minute too late. I will never let that happen again. So, again, this is the fourth time her motivation for why she created the Iron Man suit has changed again. Now, quickly we'll run through her previous motivations. Episode 1, first, it's to help. The suit is meant to help for first responders and like firefighters and shit. And then after that scene, that's not mentioned again. And then she has a talk with Xavier, also in episode 1, where she tells Xavier that she wanted to make the Iron Man suit because she wanted people to respect her. She wanted to build something cool, something iconic, to get people to respect her. And then later it changed again. And she said, actually, I think it was episode 3 with a conversation with Joe. She said, actually, I made the suit to honor my stepdad, who was a big fan of Tony Stark. And now it's changed again. Now it's about, well, I actually wanted to make this suit to protect us, to protect my family. And someone mentioned last stream that maybe the idea is that she has like a true underlying motivation, but she keeps lying about it. She keeps lying about what it really is until you get to a point like this when she finally admits why she really made the suit. So maybe the other reasons were intentional fabrications made to obfuscate away from her real reasoning. My problem with that is that the order of operations doesn't make any sense. If she's trying to obfuscate from her true reasoning, which is to protect her family, you would think that she would start with the first motivation she lists would be the furthest away from the truth. And that each time she gives another excuse, it's closer and closer to the truth. Until we get here where we get to the real reason why. But that's not what happened. We start with wanting to help first responders and firefighters. And she even mentions in this scene, she mentions the paramedics getting to the scene too late. Too late to be able to save Gary and Natalie. Which means that first motivation she listed was actually pretty close. It was actually strikingly close to her true motivations. And it was from there that she got further away. That she jumped completely into a different direction to, actually, I want the suit. I want to make this Iron Man suit so people will respect me. To make something iconic. We jump all the way to a different direction. Then we jump to something kind of related but totally different. To, actually, Gary was a fan of Iron Man. That's why I wanted to make the suit. To the true reasoning. So it doesn't follow. The pattern of her excuses does not follow. And in next episode, I think, we will get some of those previous motivations referenced again. Making it seem like those weren't actually lies. Those were the truth. So maybe the idea is that actually it's all of the above. They all factor into her reasoning for why she wants to make an Iron Man suit, but that's not how this scene plays it. This scene plays it like those were just excuses. And this is the real reasoning. So I don't know what the show is trying to fucking say, but it's not coherent. So her mom says that it's her job to make Riri feel safe, not the other way around. Riri says this is bigger than her, which is true. We've got murderers after your asses. She says she needs a suit to protect them. And that they need to leave now. But then her mom says she encourages Riri to fight. And that she'll help her fight. And Natalie reappears and says, yeah, she'll help Riri fight too. And it's like, what do you expect to do? You're fighting a bunch of murderers that are backed by some evil, dark, magical god from another dimension. It's like, what do you even fucking expect to do? Right. The enemy team have got a bunch of super geniuses, an electric-powered Joe, a magically powered Parker, And this side has one genius and no suit and no resources. Because remember, the whole point of this series is that she needs millions and millions of dollars worth of resources in order to effectively make an Iron Man suit. That is the point of this series. She has no suit and no resources. What's your bitch ass gonna do? Okay? So, the mom takes Natalie... No. The mom takes Riri to Gary's garage. Right? Her mom then shows her a wrench that says property of Ironhead. We'll see in a second. Property of Ironhead. Her mom asks, do you remember what this shit is? Riri says she doesn't. And so, AI Natalie does something bonkers. She then projects a hologram, a perfect hologram of one of Riri's memories. Now, AI Natalie was created via this brain mapping technology, so it could make sense that she would have access to Riri's memories. That makes sense. We get that. Why is the memory so crystal clear? That's not how memories work. Okay? But whatever. I would be willing to give the show that leeway for a creative license. Whatever. But why is the memory in third person? That doesn't make any sense. It should be in the first person. Because otherwise it is mapping, it is portraying things that are that must therefore be made up, because Riri is not looking at that shit. That don't make no sense. It's the same problem with the memory store from Multiverse of Madness. Same exact problem. Stupid. So it's a memory of young Riri with their stepdad. Riri not getting emotional and stuff. Turns off the hologram. It's like, I don't want to see that. Natalie says, well, why'd you turn that off? Riri says, what was the point of projecting that memory? And it's like, yeah. As an audience member, as a member of the audience, I too would like to know, what's the point of this? What? She says, to show you that when you try to forget all the memories that make you sad, you wind up forgetting the ones worth remembering. And it's like, oh, that's so nice. That's so sweet. Just one thing. The fuck does that have to do with anything? What the fuck does that have to do with the current situation? You have a magic-powered band of murderers trying to track them down and murder her and her family. The fuck does this have to do with that? Or anything? Nothing. Why is this what? What is this detour? What is the point of all this? Now, from a meta perspective, okay, the writers want to do character growth for Riri. They've set up this idea of her having panic attacks, and she has the trauma of her past and shit. So the writers want to set up her character growth, her getting past that, her confronting the past or whatever. And it's like, okay, but you have to introduce that organically. You can't just shoehorn it in during a sequence of events it has nothing to do with. Like, think about this from Natalie and Riri's mom's perspective. They understand that some ultra powerful murderers are going to come after them. And in response to that, they spontaneously want to make Riri move on from her panic attack / trauma over her stepdad's death. What? What? Hologram turns it back on. We see the rest of the memory. Ruby's dancing, having a fun time with her stepdad. She falls back, gets conked in the head by a wrench. Stepdad says she's got an iron head. Ironhead, which is the origin of property of Ironhead. And that's the end of this little flashback. And it's even from the perspective of trying to incur character growth in Riri. What does this have to do with that even? What does this memory have to do with that? What was the point of this specific memory? I don't know. In response, Riri says thank you to Natalie. She then apologizes about what she said earlier. What she was saying that Natalie's a problem. She's like, no. They reconcile. This still doesn't address the crux of all the problems and questions surrounding AI Natalie. Whatever. Ruby says, you're a glitch. But you're my glitch, bitch. She doesn't say the last part, but you know. It's like, what do you mean? What do you mean by glitch? You know, the show is still purposefully evading the big question about what / who AI Natalie is. Whatever. And then Ruby says this. You guys are right. Chicago is home. Always has been. There used to be a time where I couldn't imagine being anywhere else. I want to fight for that feeling again. Huh? What? At what point were they trying to drive home the message that Chicago is home? Did they even mention Chicago once in the previous few scenes? Like, what? This comes out of nowhere. And again, their whole point were like, oh, you need to stay and fight. Like, no. It's actually incredibly irresponsible for you to encourage her to do that when there are viable, better alternatives. What? So yeah, you see, what frustrates me the most in this scene, the previous scene, the past few scenes, is just the insane level of non sequitur going on. The insane level of characters saying shit that does not relate at all to what was previously established or said. It's confusing. It makes my brain hurt. I'm having a meltdown. Okay. I had a meltdown when I watched it the first time. I'm having a meltdown now because whoa. Is it too much to ask for some level of consistency, for some level of cause and effect? Apparently not. Apparently that's it's a little outside the writer's domain, a little outside their skill set, you know. Bitch. Okay, so basically Ruby's like, I need to build another suit, but she's got no resources. So her mom shows her this. It's Gary's old car that Ruby sold in the past for parts. She wants Ruby to use the car in order to build a new suit. Now, I think it's plainly obvious why this doesn't make any sense. This doesn't work. Ruby needed millions upon millions of dollars to make her other Iron Man suit. To make an Iron Man suit, she needed millions upon millions of dollars. That is the basis of the conflict of the whole series. Her need for money, for millions and millions of dollars to make her suit. But now, suddenly, we're supposed to believe she can make an entirely new suit from scratch using an old car. No. Even Tony Stark, even Tony's very first Iron Man suit, the one he made in Iron Man 1, even that, he required, like, creating an arc reactor in order to make the suit function. Even that most basic rudimentary design needed an arc reactor in order to function. And as established in episode 2, Ruby does not have a fucking arc reactor. She uses solar and wind in order to power her fucking suit. Which, again, that does not make sense. And as we'll see in a few scenes, we'll reach another major issue in that specific regard. Joe and the gang return to base. Joe claims he killed Riri, and it's Clown that backs him up, because at this point she thinks that maybe Parker had Rampage killed, and she's not a fan of that. She then asks Clown asks Slug to look into some autopsy reports, because she's trying to find proof that Rampage is actually dead. Have we cut to... Oh yeah, we see that... What did I miss? Everything. You missed me losing my shit at how terrible this show is and how infuriating it makes me. Can't even speak English. How infuriating it is. How angry it makes me. But other than that, not much. We're in the middle of episode 5 out of 6 episodes, so we're getting there. We're getting to the end of this bullshit. Okay, so in this scene, we see that Joe's ready to leave, but Parker wants Joe to join his crew full time, but he's not interested at all, which makes sense, because Joe should not have even joined them at all to begin with. That doesn't make any sense. At the very least, he wants to leave now. Cut to Xavier, whose old headphones conk out. So he goes to open the ones that Riri got for him, and he finds a letter she wrote inside of it. Now, I'm annoyed at this letter, because we'll see we'll touch back on it in a future scene. But I'm not a fan of how the writers handled this letter. I'll just say that. So Riri gets to work, trying to make a suit. You have Natalie and her mom helping out. The wagon kid shows up to help too. Okay. Then Ruby has an interesting line. She's grumbling, she's annoyed, she's frustrated about complications making the suit. And then she says, I mean, I don't know why I'm trying to be somebody's hero, but here I am. Bitch, you're not anyone's hero. You're not even trying to be anyone's hero. You're trying to save your ass because of the mistakes you made, but a bunch of fucking crazy people are trying to kill you. And so you're making a suit to fight them off. You're not being a hero to anybody. What are you talking about? So yeah, that line pissed me off. So the problem she's running into is she needs to find a sustainable power source to power the suit. She says, oh, I need something like Parker's hood. Something to connect her to an infinite energy supply. And again, her previous suit did not have that. Her previous suit ran on solar and wind. Which, like I complained in episode 2, that is nowhere near the level of power necessary to power one of these suits. It doesn't make any sense. And it seems now it's because it's like if that was enough, why not just use solar and wind again? What was the problem? I thought that shit worked. But suddenly, now that the plot needs it to not work, it doesn't work anymore. Wow, how fucking convenient. So she needed a new power source. And it's like, we've been told over and over again that this chick is a flippin' genius. She's smartest of the smart. The greatest intellectual mind ever born. Ever had the benefit of gracing this world. She's even said to be as smart as Tony Stark at one point. And it's like, okay, you're such a genius. Can you not make an arc reactor? Is that not within your capabilities? Why can't you make an arc reactor? I thought you were a genius. Tony Stark made one in a cave with a box of scraps. Why can't you make one? You have more shit here. But nah. Because the plot has a particular way they want this to go. The writers want this to go a particular way. So that notion is swept aside, not mentioned, forgotten. Ruby decides that she wants to use magic to power her suit. Which is like, what? I'll complain about that in I've got an upcoming scene, or I'll complain more about that. For now, the thieves now learn that Parker had Rampage killed, so they're upset, and so this results in them all getting fired. Now Parker's all alone now. And then we get to this next scene, which is absurd, and we'll see in a second. You're gonna steal gas from the King of Darkness? That seems to be Zelma's plan. Zelma's plan is to use Dormammu's magic to power Ruby's suit. And Ruby's like, yeah, I don't want to be tethered to the dark dimension. What if I end up like Parker? And it's like, Riri, why are you surprised that she's suggesting this? You're the one who came up with the idea to use magic to power the suit. Specifically magic like Parker's hood. That was your suggestion. That was your idea. That's why you brought Zelma here. Why are you suddenly caught off guard by the thing that you suggested? And also, this is a flat out retarded idea. Like, no. This is a stupid idea that these people should never consider. Why would Riri ever consider going along with this? All she knows about Dormammu and Dormammu's magic is that it corrupted Parker, and that it mutilated him, and that it turned him into a crazy person. Why would she ever want to touch that magic herself, ever? Knowing this. As far as she knows, there's hardly an upside to this. To power her suit, really? She's gonna risk becoming like Parker to power her suit. EDC. And then they don't really even address this concern at all. They go on to a different conversation, and then this happens. Xavier enters and says his catchphrase, "Hey, black people." Just so cringe. Why are we doing this? Why? What's the point in life if this keeps happening? Okay, yeah. Xavier shows up. Cool. He talks to Riri. And he says, basically he says, I read your letter, and it is what convinced him to forgive Riri. And you're probably wondering, like, oh, the letter totally changed Xavier's outlook on what Riri did, recreating Natalie and as an AI. It's like, okay, what did the letter say? The only thing we learn about the letter is that it contains a Star Trek quote. The quote being, "Of my friend, I can only say this. Of all the souls I've encountered on my travels, hers was the most human." So he changed his to hers, because in Star Trek, it's Kirk referring to Spock. In this case, it's Natalie referring to... It's Riri referring to Natalie. Okay, that's the only thing we learn about what's written in this letter. So, not only did the writers weasel out of actually writing a meaningful letter, the only thing of substance they bring up is someone else's quote. It's a quote from it's something that someone else wrote, not even something they fucking wrote. These lazy ass writers did not write a fucking letter. Okay, this pivotal character change, they could not be fucked to actually write the letter that changes his mind, and they instead relied on a quote from a completely different piece of media that someone else wrote. The absurdity, the laziness, the insecurity in one's own writing necessary to do this is astounding. Like, I can hardly believe this shit. So the conversation goes back to... Did I accidentally turn off the subs? No, I did not. Let's talk about Natalie. They talk about AI Natalie again. Riri says, like, if you want to get technical, she's actually just a holographic manifestation of my brain. Having Nat around makes me feel more like myself again. Like she's supposed to be here. And to be honest, I don't really want to go back to the way life was without her. Now, the thing about this line... So, here, as opposed to the last few... As opposed to the last time Riri talked to Xavier, her position on what AI Natalie is has completely flipped. Here, she seems to be definitively saying that she is not the real Natalie. Which makes it kind of weird. Her insistence on keeping her around. Just because she reminds Riri of the real Natalie. It's like, I don't know. I don't understand why Xavier would be cool with this before he found it in bad taste for Riri to create an AI. For Riri to create an AI in the image of his dead sister. And now she's saying, well, I mean, I like that she reminds me of the real Natalie. So I like to keep her around. I feel better that way. And it's like, I don't know why that would change Xavier's stance. It shouldn't. He should still be upset with her and think this is in bad taste. To feel and for him to feel like she's parading around his dead sister. Yeah. But he's okay with it. Whatever. Then we got a montage of Riri building the suit and Zelma setting up the evil spell, because I guess they've committed to the idea that they're going to use evil magic. Here's another thing. It was specifically stated earlier this episode. It might have been the previous one. Was it the last episode? Whatever. It was previously stated by Cree Summers that there exists magic that is inherently bad. And that is this magic. This Dormammu's magic. It is inherently evil. Yet they still go ahead to use it. What? Why? And also there's more issues later. There's an additional issue with this whole sequence that I'll get to, I think, next episode. Yeah, we'll get to it next episode. So yeah, montage, blah, blah. We cut to Joe backing up his stuff at his house. He's going to go on the run now because he's a fugitive. And then Parker shows up and reveals that because of the little admin switch we saw earlier, he now has full control over... Parker now has full control over Joe's enhanced body. He's basically a puppet, and Parker is the puppet master. This really hammers in the stupidity of Joe to ever agree to work with these guys. Yeah. So, just hammering in how fucking stupid Joe is. So Parker uses Joe to break into this mansion. It's unclear if Joe is killing these people. We don't see anything that's definitively like a death blow. And he doesn't... The scene is played kind of jokily. And Joe doesn't react as if he's killing these people, which is strange because in the last scene, Parker was like, "I'm gonna make you fucking kill people for me," but apparently he changed his mind and he's just okay with beating them up. Okay. Parker confronts the rich guy who owns the place. Turns out to be the guy from the flashback we saw at the beginning of episode 4, I think. It was this guy's place. It was this guy they were trying to rob. And we also learned that this guy is Parker's dad. And that his dad is evil. His dad kicked him out of the house when he was 12 years old, simply because he didn't want him. That was his reasoning. I can't say that's a very compelling backstory. Whatever. He forces the guy to sign over everything to Parker. He threatens him. He threatens his life if Parker ever, or if the old guy ever goes to the police or anything. So that happens, yeah. Blah, 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 blah. Next scene. So we get to this scene. And Zelma has a interesting line as they're getting ready to power up the suit for the first time. It's as... I think it's coming up. Zelma asks, "You sure about this? Remember, magic is a mutual exchange. There's always a cost." And Ruby's like, "I'm sure." Proving herself to be a fucking moron. She only has one example for what the cost for using magic might be. And that's Parker, who's being corrupted into becoming an evil motherfucker, and who's also in pain and is getting horribly disfigured. That's the only example she knows about for a cost of using magic. Knowing that, this is definitely not worth it. This is definitely not worth the fucking going ahead and doing this. She might as well be fucking killing herself right now. And not her, not Zelma, the fucking expert, not anyone else is like, "Hey, maybe don't do that. Maybe don't kill yourself to power this suit. Maybe I don't do that. Maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe consider something else." No, nobody speaks up about that. So they power the suit up with evil magic. But then Natalie starts glitching out. I was like, "What's going on?" It's like, I don't know. What's up with Natalie? Apparently the reactor can't handle the magic and Natalie at the same time, which obviously that doesn't make sense, right? Like, why would an energy and an AI software installed in the suit, why would they contradict in this way? That's not clear. And apparently it's supposed to be kind of a mystery. It's like, starting next episode, they're like, we don't know. We don't know why that's the case. So Natalie dies, basically. She's dead. And that's the end of the episode. Yay. That's the end of the episode. So now we're on to the final episode. Episode 6. Let me just pull that up for you. Here it be. Now this episode, thankfully, is quite a bit shorter than the previous ones, which is good. I think I want to breeze through this one. I want to get this over with. I want to be done with Ironheart. I want to be done with Ironheart forever. So here we go. We get a flashback to when Parker and John are robbing this place. They have to split up for some reason that's not explained. He basically is flanked by security. He's boned. When a mysterious magical entity starts talking to him. All right. And he offers him a way out. And what he does is he teleports him to this pizza place, which ends up being the thieves' hideout in the future. So we have this magical entity talking to Parker. Okay. Basically buttering him up, glazing him and shit, showing off his power too. Basically demonstrating to Parker that he is a ultra powerful magical entity who could do all kinds of shit. Then he asks him, what is it that you most desire? Now, Parker's answer is to say... Well, first he says doesn't know. Then he comes up with an answer. He says... Basically, he says, I want to be powerful, and I want to be respected. And for some reason, the entity is like, you're bullshitting me. That's not true. What do you really want? And to correct his answer, Parker says, actually, he wants to be super rich. Super mega rich, richer than his dad. And it's like, is there really that big a difference between being powerful and respected and being rich? Like, I don't understand why the entity reacted so hostily to what he said the first time. They're basically the same thing, just in different words. So the entity basically proposes a deal. He'll give him the tools to get what he most desires in exchange for something. Now, he doesn't say what that something is. He just says it's something you wouldn't even miss. And Parker agrees. Parker agrees to make that deal, which is stupid. That is dumb. Why? He doesn't even ask what the thing he's giving up is. He doesn't even ask about it. He just takes the deal immediately. Like, it doesn't... It's like, okay. I mean, every character in the show is absolutely mind-numbingly stupid, so I guess that plays. I guess that makes sense. He does that. Then we cut to the present. We have Joe and Parker sitting at this meal. One thing I want to mention is that in a previous episode, they established that the hood influences Parker in negative ways. Right. However, it makes it unclear what actions are basically motivated by the hood and what actions are Parker's own. Like, it messes up what exactly he's responsible for. You have a similar issue in Multiverse of Madness with Wanda, where it's sort of it's unclear where her will ends and the hood's influence begins. So yeah, Joe is basically being held hostage here, because Parker has complete control over him. He tries to attack him, but it doesn't work because of his programming. So yeah, Joe's in a bit of a tight spot. He's in a bit of a pickle. One thing they keep doing with Joe they do it over and over again. It's the gag of Parker wants him to do something. Joe says, I'm not going to do that. And then he has to do it anyway because of the programming. They repeat that same gag like over and over again. I guess they thought it was really funny, so they just kept doing it again and again. So yeah, they get in an argument. Joe makes fun of him. Parker's like, whatever. He goes back to the pizza place hideout. Thinking about it, the plot needs him to do this, actually. Because Riri doesn't know about the mansion took over. She only knows about the pizza place hideout. So in order to confront Parker, he needs to go back here. And he kind of does so arbitrarily. Like, Joe calls him a loser, and so he goes back to this place. Just the idea that Parker's already regretting everything, that he misses the team that bounced. The team which doesn't appear again, actually, which is kind of bizarre. Like, I was so certain that the thieves would show up again at the end, but they don't. They're just gone. So Riri's desperately trying to bring back Natalie. And as she's doing that, her mom says, it's not the real Natalie, right? Which is so bizarre, because that is like the opposite of the mom's opinion from the last time she talked about Natalie. If you remember, she told Riri was like she brought Natalie's soul back. And it's like, okay, so I guess you changed your mind. All of these characters are like constantly flip-flopping on their motivations, their opinions on things, all the time. There's not a single fucking character who remains consistent all the way through. It's bullshit. Oh, whoops, what the fuck did I do? Okay, here we go. Okay, Riri eventually says something like, magic took her, magic can bring her back. I'll figure it out after I get that hood. That'll be important for later. There she goes. Basically, she takes off to go and against the wishes of the people around her, she goes to fight Parker. Then we have Parker trying to talk to the entity. They're like, where you at, bro? The entity... Oh yeah, there's this moment. The entity turns out to be very... the entity does not like his tone, does not like his ungratefulness. He's clearly she's delusional. Possibly, potentially. So he talks to the entity. The entity is not thrilled about his, his ungrateful tone. But for some reason, the entity has a different accent now. When did you get an accent? He does not answer. He appears again, noticeably more disheveled looking this time, with a different accent. It's like, there is no explanation for this, and it'll get stranger later. The whole accent thing. I don't know what the show's trying to say with the change in accent. It's clearly trying to say something. I don't know what it is though. So the entity makes a point to say that he held up his end of the deal. He stuck to it, every letter of it. He did not go against what they agreed upon at all. Then Riri shows up and she's confronted by Joe. Now, Joe is afraid of what Parker would do if he learned that he didn't actually kill Riri. So his plan is to kill her for real this time. Which, again, that's not something Parker would ever do. Now, here the entity tells Parker she basically agrees to give him more power as long as she can hold on to the hood. That's the agreement they make. So Joe and Ruby fight. I guess she stands a better chance this time because her suit's now evil magic powered. And what Riri wants to help Joe because she can tell based on her scanning mechanics thing that Joe is not in control of himself really. Like Parker can do whatever he wants. Parker is the one in control of him because of his control over his enhancements. So she wants to help him, right? And she then comes up with a plan for how she can help him. And it is the stupidest, dumbest, most pathetic thing. Like, I don't know how to prepare you for this. Prepare you for what her plan is to help Joe. Okay? Just keep in mind, the writers fucking wrote this. They wrote this. And they expected the audience to take it seriously. Okay? How can you help? I'm gonna knee you in the groin. The show makes it a plot point that in order for Ruby to help Joe, she has to kick him in the balls. They wrote this. The writers thought this up. They probably thought it was so fucking funny. And they inserted it into the show as a real plot point. Conveniently, no one ever thought of such a thing as groin plating. Yeah. Joe, with all of his enhancements, never thought of like protecting his cock and bollocks. And so he's still fighting because he doesn't have control over himself. And then he gets hit in the nuts, and she helps him. She like implants a virus in him that will allow a hard reset or something that will basically give him back control over his body. And then we have, Joe says some strange shit here. Ruby says, so we're friends again, Joe? He says, Joe's gone. Like, what? And he says, I have millions of dollars worth of weapons inside me and no idea where to put this anger. Just go handle Parker. Just know you and I aren't done. What? First of all, if he's so upset about having all this high-tech equipment implanted into himself, why did he implant it in himself? Huh? You didn't have to do that. You didn't have to go with the thieves. You didn't have to make all that shit for them. You didn't have to do any of that. You did that to yourself for no fucking reason. And also, are they trying to set up Joe as like a recurring villain? Because what? As Joe was characterized before, in this moment, he'd want like two things. He'd want his old life back, however he can get it, and he'd want to have nothing to do with Riri or any fucking criminals moving forward. Okay, that's what Joe would want. But apparently that's not it. Apparently he's still got beef with Riri for some reason, even though he has fucked his own life over infinitely more than she has. First of all, if he's so mad about this, then why did he let Riri go in the first place? Exactly. Why? He still has the capability to turn her into to rat her out to the police and stuff. He could still do that if he wanted to. But he won't because the writers do not want that to happen. Because they don't want their evil main character to go to jail to pay for her crimes. Riri goes to confront Parker. She wants to grab the hood from him. And then, in response to that demand, Parker says... He says that. And then he says, I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh, it's just... You were so sure that you were one of the good ones. But now look at you. You have your fancy suit, but you won't use it to stop a speeding train, to save the city from an asteroid. No, you just want this power for yourself. And then she says, that's not why I'm here. It's not worth the cost. Face it, Riri, you're a criminal. Like me. And she has no response because, yeah. So he makes a good point in that she has not even attempted to do anything even a little bit heroic the entire show. She's not a hero. She didn't build this suit to be a hero. She's an evil person and she's a criminal. And it's like, does the show even understand that? Does the show think that by making the bad guys say it, it's not true? Because it's still true. Second, if Joe is mad about all of this, why doesn't he report himself to the police and S.H.I.E.L.D. after Riri beats Parker? Exactly. Given his character and given his motivation, he should do exactly that. But he won't because that'll get their precious character in trouble and they don't want that. They want her to get off scot-free. So they have big magic fight. Parker turns into like a spooky ghoul, which is okay. At one point, Riri gets pinned down. She activates an emergency protocol. See in a second what that protocol seems to do. There's a giant fucking explosion, which blasts Parker away and fills the room with smoke and sparks. And the suit is destroyed. It's on the floor, destroyed. And Riri's still alive. She took a point-blank explosion, and she's more or less fine, as we'll find out. So then Parker goes up to her to destroy her, to shoot her. And when he tries to shoot her, it is revealed. Come on, motherfucker. That she's a hologram. Her and the broken suit was all a hologram. Her suit's totally fine. She was just hiding off somewhere. The explosion. There was an explosion. That explosion was real. What was that explosion if it didn't blow up the suit? What was that? What? This makes no sense. As you can imagine, it's dumb. The suit, as far as we can tell, the suit really did explode, yet for some reason it didn't actually hurt Riri at all or damage the suit. Okay. So basically, it's cheap. It's a cheap thing to do. She takes his hood away. He begs for his life. Oh. We have a very interesting exchange coming up. Good thing Parker did not hear all that clinking and clanking from the suit's movements to get behind him. Exactly. Also, she's in this big-ass mechanical suit and she's somehow able to do fucking stealth. No, she can't. Parker says, it hurts. It hurts. She says, I know. It's like, what? He's referring to losing the hood. Losing the hood seems to cause him physical pain. She says, I know. No, you don't. Why would you know that? What are you talking about? It sounds like she's talking from experience. It's like, no, you're not. Is the show trying to make her allude to losing Natalie? Like, oh, it hurts without her. Well, just like Parker hurts without the hood. It's like Parker's suffering from physical pain. You suffer from emotional pain. What are you talking about? Stop it. You're trying to be deep, but you're not. You're shallow as a puddle. So Riri fucks off with the hood. When she gets downstairs, there's a little someone waiting for her. It's the entity. Right? He uses his abilities to kick her out of her suit. And that makes her realize that, oh, she's the entity. She realizes he is the entity that Parker got the hood from. And that presumably, her magic stems from. The magic in her suit stems from him. So she's under the impression that this is Dormammu. But we'll learn the truth soon enough. So they sit down for a chat. And again, his accent changes. It starts off with like the American accent, shifts to the British one. I don't know why. I don't know what this means. What the writers are trying to say with that. I don't know. Really good idea, Ruby, to go all in alone without the two amateur sorcerers to get you back, in case you have to deal with something like this. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. She had the option. She definitely had the option to go in with some sorcerers. She chose not to, because she's an idiot. Okay, so during the conversation, he basically says like, "Oh man, I've been watching you. I've been rooting for you. You're exceptional. You're terrific. None of the bad things that happened to you are actually your fault. I'm here to help you as the unseen and unheard." Basically, he says all the shit she wants to hear. As a super egotistical, selfish person, this is all the shit she wants to hear, that she wants to believe is true. He offers a deal. He offers to work together with her and to help her build something iconic. It's then revealed that he's not Dormammu like she thought. He's Mephisto. Now the show plays his name like a big reveal, except if you're not familiar with the comics, you don't know who he is or what that means. But anyway, he's Mephisto. Just like a little too late to be introducing this guy. Like, it's been talked to death, but like, really, he should have been in WandaVision. He should have been involved in those events, but he wasn't. But now they've introduced him finally, and it's in this shit. It's in Ironheart of all things. It really makes me question, are we ever going to see this dude again? Really? Maybe, I don't know. Who's to say? Although that makes me wonder. Zelma powered the suit with magic, under the impression she was using Dormammu's magic. She was under the impression that it was Dormammu. That brings me the question. She wrote all those glyphs and shit for the use of Dormammu's magic. Does that mean her suit is actually powered by Dormammu and not Mephisto? Because how would she accidentally power the suit with magic of a person she does not believe is actually the person powering the suit? What? So again, the equivalent to the devil of the MCU, and there's no sorcerers around except two amateurs that didn't alert the Sanctum. Yeah. Really, you should have saved Mephisto for like a proper magic show with a proper magic character. It feels like we're wasting him here as the introduction. It's stupid. Okay, we're almost done. Basically, Mephisto asks what he can do for her. She has some flashbacks about AI Natalie. She asks, what's the catch? And like before, he just says, it's something you wouldn't miss. Something you wouldn't even miss. Which, it's not very smart of him to say that. It's not smart of him to not specify what people are giving up for his deals. Because that means only stupid people would fall for it. Only stupid people who don't want to bother asking questions would fall for his deals. What he should do is tell her what she'll be giving up, but, twist it. Present it in a vague, twisted, dishonest way to make it seem like it's not really that bad. But it's actually bad. It actually is really bad. Right? Like, I feel like you see this in stuff like this all the time. With, like, evil devils and shit who want to make deals. They twist the truth a little to make it not seem so bad. To trick people into agreeing and making deals. I'm okay with blending genres at this point because it would be interesting to see someone who's intelligent in engineering tackle the mystic arts, but they didn't even get the intellect part right. I see your point, yeah. I'm also not against the blending of genres like this. I just think it needs to be properly set up. The magic stuff kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, I know we had Parker's Magic Hood, but it was a pretty subtle, minor use of magic in the show until halfway through we suddenly get thrown into sorcerers and alternate dimensions and Dormammu and shit. I just don't think it was handled particularly well. And mostly I think it's a waste to waste Mephisto on Ironheart of all characters. Yeah. She thinks of AI Natalie. Then we suddenly cut away. We suddenly cut away to a different day, and then a night, and then we see Riri, presumably a little bit older. They change her hairstyle. They have it all out, and I think that's supposed to indicate the passage of time. We cut to this, and we see her working on something, and then we see that, oh, it worked. AI Natalie's back. And it's like, oh, so Riri took the deal. Whoa, we just cut ahead to Riri taking the deal and getting Natalie back. Hey, what's up, man? Oh my God, we just took the deal. Oh my God. But then we cut back to the conversation. And she says, what I want can't be done. And then it shifts again. It's like, oh, whoa, I see. That flash forward wasn't real. That was a daydream. That was her daydreaming about potentially getting AI Natalie back. But obviously she's not stupid enough to take this deal. Obviously. So the conversation continues. It seems she's accepted Natalie's death, I guess. And we had that whole sequence in the previous episode about her pushing past her trauma or whatever. Interesting to watch how you analyze things. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. So we're here, and it's like, okay, she's not going to take the deal, obviously. But then Mephisto says, death is difficult. They say that time can heal all wounds, but that's bollocks. The pain never goes away. I can fix that. And then we cut ahead again to this scene. And now things change because you're like, oh, this isn't a daydream of what would happen if she did take the deal. She actually took the deal. But there's a twist. There's a twist. Bop, it's not AI Natalie. It's the real Natalie, brought back from the fucking dead. Obviously, that would make her look like an egotistical criminal who only wants to get everything she wants and doesn't want to accept any flaws of grief in her life, because that's how that works. Yeah, she's an incredibly selfish character who learns nothing and is rewarded for her shitty actions. So then we cut back to the conversation again, which now we understand to be, we now understand that she takes the deal. She says, if I do this, it's just me you want, right? Nobody else. And he says, that's right. So the show is trying to account for how ridiculously selfish an action this is by making it like, oh no, she's taking on the burden. Right? She's not getting anyone else involved. She's taking on the punishment for making this deal or whatever. Trying to obfuscate from how incredibly selfish an act this is. And also, given that she knows how much Mephisto fucked over Parker, it's stupid. It's stupid. It's dumb. She's supposed to be a super genius, but she can't see through how this is obviously a terrible idea. With like major faults and consequences. So she makes the deal. She gets Natalie back. And that's the end. And also we see some what's happening? Come on. Hello? Why is this not working? Stupid bitch. Okay. She hugs her, and we see dark veins crawling up her arm, just like Parker. And then ends on a cliffhanger. And there's an after credit scene where Parker goes to the magic shop and tells Zelma he needs some heavy duty magic. And there's just the implication that something's gonna happen. I hope this never gets a sequel. I doubt it will. I'm pretty sure it's not performing particularly well. So it's kind of laughable that they had a cliffhanger and a after credit scene teasing shit. Yeah, this show is nasty. This show is a pile of duty garbage. Let me find a good shot to rest on. That's fine. The show is ass in a lot of ways. Just like how it makes no sense for her flashback saying she should avoid crime, go into crime. It makes no sense for her to make a deal with someone. She should know scoot over someone else. Exactly. Riri as a character is one huge contradiction. Nothing makes sense. There is no melding between backstory, motivation, personality, and action. None of it functions properly at all. The plot of the show is doo-doo shit. It's broken at its foundation. A super genius can't get a fucking job. That's where we started, and that's still an issue. Because none of the events of the show would have happened had she fucking, if not for that stupid plot point that doesn't make sense. Okay? And there's also contrived reasons not to get other heroes and other forces involved, right? Multiple times she should go to the police. She doesn't. Multiple times she should go to sorcerers. She doesn't. She should contact Shuri and Wakanda. She doesn't. Okay. All to make this stupid plot happen. And all to end here with a show that will likely never get a fucking sequel. Okay? It sucks. And I'm glad to be done with it, to wipe my hands with this trash shit doo-doo. those are my thoughts on Ironheart. The stream has been going on long enough, so I'm going to wrap it up there. I want to thank everyone here for joining me, especially you, Chaos Jumper. Thank you for stopping by and engaging in chat. I'm gonna go now. Have a nice day. Till next time.